Good afternoon and happy Tuesday, traders. This is Tanner with Charting Options, back to discuss some options flow that came through the BlackBoxStocks tape. We had some dip buyers come in for DDOG, DDOG. I want to just quickly look at the flow itself, break down a few things that check boxes for me in terms of following this big smart money into this trade. We'll take a peek at the technicals, which I love to align if we can, and in this instance we can, so that's great to do. And then we'll also look at something that I believe we should all be watching, assuming we followed into this trade, either for an exit strategy or just to keep an eye on what these buyers, this big smart money that we followed in, is doing. Now I say we followed in. You do not have necessarily needed to follow this trade to get something out of this video. All of the principles that we discuss can be applied to any other flow trades that are taken. So please be mindful of that while you're watching. You can quickly just in your mind switch out DDOG for any other ticker, and they all really apply the same way. That goes for calls and puts as well. And with that being said, if you do take something out of this video, please like and subscribe. Please leave some comments down below. I'd love some constructive criticism on how I can make these videos better, how I can make the channel better. YouTube is a new venture for me, and I intend to post more and more content, so I'd love to make the content as tailored to you, the viewer, as I can. So never will turn away criticism in any way. So please be kind about it, though, but I'm happy to hear your thoughts. So with that being said, we'll kind of unpack right now just quickly from the flow to the technicals to something we should keep our eye on, exit strategy. So from a flow standpoint, we had about 8 call sweeps come in and then a block follow it at the end for the November 19th $140 call. These came in with about 10 minutes of each other, so this is someone hitting hard, the same strike, the same expiration. They're giving time on the trade. It's not too far out of the money. Those are things that I prefer when entering a trade. We can minimize the risk as much as we can by giving the trade time, always giving the trade time and staying near the money, so keeping delta relatively high. We can see that there was some, all of these are, not all of them, we had 193, but just about all of these were above 200K, and I think it equates in total to right around $2 million. Between the roughly the 8 or 9 sweeps and the one call block that came in at the end. So there is some large size coming into this trade. That is one box to check. That implies that this is big money, and hopefully they're smart. And we'll look at a couple other things right now that maybe implies that they are being smart from a technical standpoint. But another thing with these calls that were transacted, we can assume that they were bought for other reasons as well. IV was increasing throughout these purchases, so we went from 47 to a high of 50. That implies they're being bought and not sold. Another thing, just to quickly mention, these were yellow on BlackBoxStocks. Yellow implies that these were brand new contracts. That implies that this first sweep for 243 calls was above the open interest coming into the day, which says, hey, these are new. They were just purchased. So that also gives us confidence that these are not being sold. You can see that as the underlying goes up, so too was the premium for the contracts, which were all paid at the ask or above the ask. We had one sweep come in above the ask. Also, another hint that these were being bought and not sold. While this was happening, we also had, you can see this first started at 11:26, so just before 11:30. You can see that we had volume come into the underlying as price was near the lows of the day or right at the lows of the day, which pushed price higher towards an intraday high. So that's a positive. Another sign that maybe someone knew that someone was going to come in and buy some shares, and they are getting long to add to their long equity position. So all that to say, BlackBoxStocks was kind enough to also give us 2 alerts. If you're a trader and you have BlackBoxStocks, you were alerted twice of how good this flow was. And this is just BlackBoxStocks' friendly way of saying, hey, you should go check this out. We think it could be follow-worthy. And then after breaking down what you see visually, we can. I think it's safe to say that this is certainly a position that someone has taken today that intends to be in, and based on the size, they have confidence that it will work out. So my conviction will follow theirs, and I will do the same. And from a technical aspect, we can look at where DDOG is on the chart, and you can see quickly that Datadog had this huge peg on volume in August, and price consolidated and traded sideways but up for a while leading into September, and in doing so, it has created a series of lower highs. We had the true low in August, we had a lower high in September, and now we have 2 points of reference for a potential trend line. And sure enough, today from the gap down and push with the prolific market move lower, price found support on that same trend line. So this is our third point of reference for the trend line. Now, I don't intend to use this as my stop for this specific trade, but if you are a technical trader and you're looking for maybe a potential stop from an underlying standpoint, to if you assuming you did follow into this trade, you could use today's low, which is exactly 135.37, which is this red dotted line I have panned out here, and you can see that there's a ton of volume in this area. This is an area that has acted as support early in September, and it acted as resistance late in August before price finally cleared. So this is a big spot, this 135 mark. But as we just mentioned, it's also confluent with this trend line. So price gets below that, it's losing the trend line, which means price is changing, and it's no longer in this short-term uptrend that it is in. So that's something to be mindful of. I don't intend personally to exit that way. I'm going to actually follow the same people that I followed in. I intend to hopefully follow them out. And I will do so by looking at the open interest and volume for the day. So this is something you can find in your brokerage's options chain. You can use barchart.com/options at the end of the day to find volume and open interest, the history of that for any ticker. That's another way you can do it. I prefer to use just my broker. So this is E-Trade's look at the chain itself. So I've got November 19th here, and if we look, we can see we're looking at the 140 strike. We can see, boom, right here, 5,800 is the volume for today. Coming into the day, the open interest was only 43. So this is what people would consider to be unusual activity. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Oh, there we go. Considering the drastic, or the extent of the multiplier off of open interest. This is 100% unusual activity, and we saw that activity come through the tape. So all that to say, what I will now be watching is when this turns into open interest tomorrow. So say tomorrow we open at like 5,500 as the open interest for this particular strike. That is the number you will then follow as the trade prolongs and as price works. Okay? If this number goes down, that means those that bought and had interest in the position are selling. So if say hypothetically speaking, 2 weeks from now, the number still sits at like 5,000, but we had a high volume day where like maybe the volume for that day was 4,000, and then the next day the open interest went down to 1,000. That means that the big smart money that we followed in pretty much is out of the position. I mean, we can't necessarily assume that they're completely out, but it means that they sold. So that would be your indication to sell as well. So that is kind of how I plan on planning my exit strategy for this particular trade, but I also will still be watching the underlying as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helped. As a reminder, it helps me. Like, subscribe, give me comments, feedback. Anything is appreciated. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.